Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Delicately Wild. Today we have Beatrix. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We usually start the show. Sometimes I miss out on it, but with the solar power mantra and just our tones of creation. So I'm going to begin there. A warm welcome, just guiding everybody to just drop into your heart, taking a deep breath in. We are God, we are sovereign, and we are free. We are divine unconditional love. We are unity. We are divine purity. We are divine innocence. We are divine effortlessness, grace, and harmlessness. We are divine peace. We are the 12-12 masculine rod and the 13-13 feminine staff, fully restored and embodied now. We are the sacred marriage, fully restored and embodied now. We are Hieros Gammas, fully restored and embodied now. We are the divine mother, father, and Christed eternal child, fully restored and embodied now. We are the Holy Trinity, fully restored and embodied now. We are the diamond, emerald, crystal heart, fully restored, activated, and ignited now. 12-12-12 sphere, align, connect, unify, and harmonize. Anchor, seal, unlock, and radiate throughout all stations of identity, past, present, future, and parallel. Anchor, seal, unlock, and radiate throughout all of creation, for the highest good of all families in all kingdoms. So it be, and forever shall it be. Aho, shalom, namaste. I am, we are, Ubuntu. Crystal, crystal. I'm just going to tone the sounds of creation with our heart tone at the end. Karayasa Tahana Karaya Sata Hala Karaya Sata Hala. Taking a deep breath in. Welcome, Beatrix. You're welcome to unmute yourself. Right, as everybody knows, this is a cool, delicate, and wild conversation with other human beings across the planet. We have Beatrix from South Africa. We recently met this year. We have an old mutual friend in common. So welcome to the show, Beatrix. Usually I start off with just kind of guiding people into your story, where your awakening path started. And, you know, people start in many different places and spaces. So please do just jump in wherever you wish to in the milestones of your life with regards to your story. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would say my work awakening started about, I think, 8 years ago. When I had a small accident and I fell on my head and I got a concussion, and I had to prepare for a very big merger and acquisition meeting. So I had to find a way to fix this quickly. And I was told that Tai Chi can help to fix the brain. And so I very quickly got a teacher, and for the first time I experienced energy, like something I didn't even know this existed. And I would say this is when I became inquisitive. And then over time, I found out that your mind and your body is somehow connected, and I could start resolving some physical pain I had by understanding the connection. And yeah, through that journey, I just got different resources that every time it took me a little bit closer to understanding, okay, wait, the things that I've learned, and because I grew up Christian, very, very staunch Christian, that maybe like this is not the whole story. And then so I had my first medicine experience 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago, when I was late to the San Pedro. And from there, like, you know, everything just changed even more. My whole life changed 180 degrees. I went from like a solid startup job where I was like just working and living that life, to like just reevaluating everything and just changing everything. And then was it about 3 months ago, I had my first experience with the mushrooms with you. And again, like, things just shifted so much. And I would say, like, I'm far from complete in my journey, but yeah, it's been quite an experience.
A wise statement. I'm far from complete in my journey is the wisest statement any being could have.
Well, thank you. I'm reminded every day.
Yeah, and it's tough because, you know, it's like, you know, what does it mean to be a spiritual leader and simultaneously know that you know nothing? And this is the conundrum I find myself in. I'm like, oh, sometimes I just want to squirrel away. And I speak about this on pretty much every podcast of like, I just want to squirrel away because who am I, you know? But then when I read the patterns of my creation story, and that's what I teach, is how to read these patterns, how to live our life through that which we create, so that we can read the map, the soul map. Then I'm like, well, if this sign is saying this, this, and this, then I am a guardian and I am a teacher and I am somewhat of a leader without giving names and labels to it. But we're still here on the planet using the English language to describe things. So I liked how you mentioned that it was the first time you experienced energy. Because that's pretty much like, imagine, I mean, you've been in my mushroom ceremony. You know that I work that at quite a high level with higher dimensional codes, if we can call it that. And I'm happy to hear your own description of it. But it's like, imagine having someone come into your office, your whatever, a session with you, and you're like, so I know they're in a program, let's call it a sleep state. It's like, where the fuck do we begin? So I always kind of go like, so from my perspective, the basis of my teachings is everything is energy. Yeah. Everything is energy. How is that filtrated into your life? This teaching of everything is energy, particularly, I guess, with this contrast of coming from a Christian background.
Yeah, that's a nice question. It's so I'm still, like, to be very honest, I'm still learning. So yes. my first understanding of it was from that experience, or a few experiences with Tai Chi. And then, of course, like, many books came across my path, and like, I've had to find my utmost best to discern, like, what is real and what is just blah blah and more stories. But to the point where now I'm like, everything literally is energy, and I have to I'm wrapping my mind around the fact that whatever I'm seeing here in front of me is just energy that's coming to matter. And like, literally understanding that in every moment, like, what I see in front of me is what I've, through my thinking, made into matter. And like, together with how my energy influences the people around me, and how we are co-creating this. And I'm sitting, like, in this week in my meditations, I'm going like, okay, so is the solution then, like, to have everyone on this entire planet get to understand that, and then we co-create a new earth, which is, the heaven that the Bible speaks of. And I'm figuring this out. I don't know yet. Maybe you have the answers.
You have the answers. You are me and I am you. But yes, I like the expansive thought processes that you've gone through, in terms of, so what does the planet need to do? What do people on the planet need to do? Like, do we need to understand that concept? And that's exactly what that what any spiritual teacher is essentially teaching is, sir, madame, children, do you understand that you are creating it all? And I think this is the biggest part where we have dissonance, because we can say, you know, we can take something really drastic. And again, guys, please excuse if you are triggered through these conversations. I'm going to bring up shadow aspects, but let's say, for example's sake, let's say if there is a rape in someone's reality, if there is a hijacking. I mean, we come from South Africa, we have intense situations of fear states and safety issues within our country, and we can point and blame and do all of these things, but ultimately, if we take that point, the pointing away, the blame away, and we really look at these hardcore issues, so I've mentioned two, and then we can go further and say, okay, cool, poverty. We can go further and say world domination of a certain world order, or whatever it is, whether that be true or false, whether it is a story, a fallacy, if it's a storybook that we're reading, or a Netflix show that we are watching, and we've got a zombie apocalypse, for example's sake, and we look at this and we're like, I can't possibly have created this. This is outside of me. But take a couple of grams of mushrooms and a couple more grams of mushrooms, and you get that feeling of like, it is all one, right? It is all one. And that's where the spiritual battle comes in. And if you read the Bhagavad Gita, that's what it is. It's the spiritual battle of all those egoic elements of like, this can't be my fault. And you know, the levels of accountability that one needs to take on one spiritual path are fucking huge.
Yes.
So I mean, let's speak to that in terms of world issues, or world, I don't want to call them issues, because I don't want to, they're world constructs that are appearing in our reality at this point in time, or closer to home in your reality. What presents in your reality that is causing a bit of cognitive dissonance for you in your now time? And again, it can be close to home with your reality, or that which you see in the world, on the world stage at the moment.
So yeah, I'm going to be, maybe it's not going to be as succinct as it could be, because I find myself quite confused in this very moment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So since my journey with you, obviously like new information came to me that I'm trying to make sense of.
Yes.
And I've sort of found myself many different sources of potential enlightened information, if you might call it that. And I've met one or two of a friend of mine who one day about a month and a half ago, probably not, shouldn't say his name, but he just like said, put your phone away, I'm going to tell you some stuff. And he told me some stuff that like blew my mind. And like, I was listening to that, I'm like, nothing's real. Like, and like what I believed to be a society that is built for our good is like, it's very different. And so, and then I found lots of Facebook groups and stuff, but now I've left most of them because that just seems like very crazy talk without much substance to it. So I think that's my biggest thing, just to be able to understand what is really going on. How much of this speak of ascension, speak of 5D, speak of, you know, if I'm allowed to say this, words like blue beam and like all that, like how much of this is real and how much of this is just people wanting to check out of their reality, waiting for the big day to come when, you know, the order is going to fall and then we have no more self-responsibility. So I don't know like what the balance is, and that's my big challenge. Does it make sense?
Yes, perfect sense. And it's actually really lovely to have you online, because I know where you're at in your journey. And like you say, you're like right in the thick of it. You're like in the fucking thick of it. And that's a confusing space to be. And there's a lot that you need to, it's like you've got all the ingredients on top of you, and you've like got to get a little bit of air and be like, oh, okay, fine, like I can breathe, you know. So yes, it's really lovely to have someone at your stage on the show, because we have people at all different levels that come on, and and let's say the level, without creating a hierarchy here, but again, we are here on the planet speaking English language. So let's say the level that you are at is post an awakening. So it's like all this information is coming to you. And I mean, I'm sure you could agree, but in your natural state, you're quite a researcher, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you were a lawyer at some
Yeah.
stage, right? Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
you want the facts, you want the info. So I can imagine how much digging and searching that you are going through. Actually, I'm going to interject here. Like, how does your partner find this? You know, like, is he just like, whoa, you need to slow down, or is he just like, keep diving, keep going?
No, he just tells me keep going, keep going. I guess he does try and remind me to keep a foot in the reality, you know, in the day to day, like
Yes,
keeping, you know, bills paid and things
yes,
done,
yes.
where because it's like quite a pull from like just doing
Every
what you've been
day.
told to do every day. And now I've got this whole thing to deal with, and it's like a little bit more energetically consuming than I would have imagined. So like, yeah, he
Thank you for
tries
your
to kind of
truth. Thank you for your truth. Yes.
it's true. So he occasionally tries to help me like ground a little bit, but
Mm,
like he lets me be. I mean, he's older, he's been through many ceremonies with you, so I
mm,
think he's like he kind of understands, so he just
mm,
lets me
mm,
be
mm.
while also keeping an eye to maybe help keep me safe if I'm
And I think this is a
um
powerful thought, because I've been really thinking of doing a video about this. And so I may as well chat about it now, but it's like, what is grounding? So, you know, you'll have many enlightened beings, spiritual teachers, guides, Instagram famous, whatever you want to call the influencers. They'll say, you know, just go out into nature, go out into nature. But recently I've been having a conversation with myself about reframing what grounding is and how we can ground ourselves. And so, yes, nature is really, really powerful, but ultimately it depends where you are on the spectrum. So let me bring these words levels in again. It's like, it depends where you are on the spectrum, because if you are digging down the rabbit hole, the conspiracy theory hole, the ascension hole, the information hole, you are diving into creation stories. Like, you're diving
yep.
into conspiracy theories, and you're trying to extract truth from that. And those theories are bringing you to many, many different parts of philosophies, religions, sciences, politics, economics, history, etc., etc., etc. And so that information is quite out of your normal reality.
Yeah.
So yes, taking time in nature is a complement to this, because you're in this digital world where you're seeking information. So that, yes, this is a super amazing space to ground, come back to breath, and be like, this, okay, cool, we're on planet Earth here. However, the other part is to kind of step into, and dare I say this, I might be triggering a couple of people, but dare I say this, is to step into your 3D world, your job, a job that which assists you with, you know, getting money into your, like you say, paying bills and all of that. The stuff that we don't, once we've kind of awakened and shifted, we're like, why, why, why are we doing these things?
Mhm.
When did I consent to this thing? There are billions of people doing these things. I don't want to do these things anymore. But actually, it is grounding. And where it comes in is when we shift our work, for lack of a better word, our job, into that which is of true service to the all one, then we can ground ourselves through the practice of that which we would call a job, and be like, this job is cool, I'm being of service. So I think this is this unfolding and uncovering part that you're in now, of like, I don't know if my jobs that I was doing is that much of service to a unity perspective. You mentioned the new world, to the creation of the new world. And until you figure all of that out, and you've still got to come to conclusions, it's very hard to step into the job that is just there to pay the bills. It's very, very difficult.
It's really difficult. Like I didn't expect that. So I work I'm a freelancer, and I like in a really good hourly rate. And I found myself, and I like nice things. I like to live comfortably. Yet I found myself completely, I want to say almost unable to sit down and just sit on my bum and like log those hours. It's like
Yes.
I couldn't. It's getting a little bit better now. Like, I mean, I worked yesterday. I logged 2 hours
Well done.
yesterday.
Well done, Beatrix.
But I'm really trying to find meaning in it all. And one day I sat down about a month ago and I thought, okay, finally, I was reading books about values. I was actually ghostwriting a book about leadership and stuff. And I thought I finally tied my values to this job thing that I'm doing. So I thought, okay,
Yes.
Monday, but no, Monday didn't.
Wow.
It's really challenging.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's the
tough.
most challenging part.
It's tough because your personality makeup is that A type, get shit done. Let's achieve. You've had that success in your life, and not that you will not have it again. It just looks completely different. It's just a completely different set of values. And I can imagine how difficult that's been for you, because you like to get shit done. And like you say, you're finding yourself in absolute resistance. And this is part of what many will call, your dark night of the soul. It depends how strong your structures are around you. Some people, that's what happens in the dark night. They literally cannot. It's like the soul and the body cannot proceed. They shall not pass, you cannot proceed. And so you lose your house and you lose your job, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And it's really, really intense. So,
Really
guys,
is.
yeah, it's really intense, and it's scary, and each person on the path, and this is what's beautiful about spirituality, is there is no separation. You can be the person on the street going through an awakening. You can be a high level corporate going through an awakening. You can be a single mom with 2 kids, or you can just be, whatever. It doesn't matter. But what it does is bring us to an equal playing field, all of us, no matter what.
Yeah, it
And
is so crazy. Like I'm telling myself, Beatrix, like even last night I woke up at 3 in the morning. I'm like, okay, just like, maybe just get a job. Like that will force you into some kind of routine. You'll get paid, you'll go back to some kind of structure. But then I go like,
we can't.
what?
Yeah,
Anyway, it's
yeah.
complicated.
And I really like how you said it surprised you. It surprised you that you've struggled so much. I think, like, people always get confused with me in coaching sessions, because the things that they think are a failure are a success on the spiritual path to me. So I go, the fact that you have stated that you're surprised at how much the resistance you've got and how difficult this has been for you, to me, I'm like, yes, yes.
Thank you. Makes me feel
Yes,
slightly better.
yes, because to me, I'm like, yes, it's that work which you have done is working, because ultimately, whether it starts now or later, it's got to start on your path, unless you're really, 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 really dissociating, disconnected, not doing any of the work. And there are beings on the planet that will remain in that stasis, that sleep state, and that's okay. But yeah, it's happening. It's unfolding. And I think, and I'll give you a perspective here. It's like, even though we go down these rabbit holes for days and hours and hours and days and weeks on end, she laughs because she knows it's true. Even though we go down these and we get this new stream of information, this new stream of data, what is really humbling and grounding, so this is the reframing of the grounding again, is to know that 100 million timelines exist, because there are those people that are in stasis. There are those people that won't wake up. There are those people that are the bankers, the bakers, and the candlestick makers that are keeping some things afloat, even though they may just be like, you pull one little thread and it's collapsed, but it's all just part of this quantum field and this matrix, and it's fucking what's the word I want to use? It's delicately wild. That's the name of this podcast for a reason. It's, like, it's delicately wild. It's delicately wild. I actually wanted to chat, like when we met, you had been some sort of bigwig, or maybe that's the incorrect word, but in the AI world, and we had a really deep and fascinating conversation. I'd kind of like to re-bring that in, because why not? So give us a little bit of background about your experience there, and how did the sex show go, actually?
Okay, so you want me to go there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so should I give a tiny bit of background just as to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Flow.
Yeah, I actually retold the story to a brand new friend 2 weeks ago, so I got to recapture everything. So it happened, and I still to this day, even though I do not understand it, believe it was by intuition and divine guidance. I somehow have two humanoid companion robots and two humanoid companion just humanoid dolls. In other words, sex robots, sex dolls. And I just have them. And I started this business called the Dollhouse. And my idea, I guess the only sense I could make of it was to expose people in South Africa to this technology. And because it's happening, it's going to be here.
Yes.
It might as well be in the hands of, at least I believe that I have mostly good intentions, and,
Yes.
I want to do it right. And so I had the first Sexpo last year. Was it October here in Joburg? I had my partner with me and a few people that just like wanted to help me, and so we did it. It was lots of fun. Then went to Joburg, this Cape Town in August, and I found it extremely difficult. It was a very, very challenging week. I felt I had no energy. I really battled to be present, although I was, but I battled.
Yes.
It took me weeks to recover from it. I found the whole scene very, very harsh and crude. Um,
So,
I
so, so to interject here, from last year to this year, you already feel a complete difference in your shift in consciousness of how you view,
yeah,
year 1 to year 2 of being part of the Sexpo. Like,
yeah. My biggest, what I would say, the only thing that I really found valuable about the experience was the conversations, because I got to talk to the people on one stage every day. And, I got to like just explain what it is, but then also hear where people are at.
yes,
So I think that was like, at the end of the day, it goes back to the conversations. So if I can
yes,
say that it had value, it was that we had certain conversations.
beautiful.
At this point where I'm sitting now, I don't know what to do. Part of my thinking is going towards having a podcast to where we can have the conversations about morality, about spirituality, about everything around AI and robots that look like humans and that are
Yes,
used, in the sexual act, which is like, I've watched Avatar and I'm like, oh, but does that act of, having sex with a robot, like, put some kind of consciousness in them? And like, there's so many questions to just talk about. So I think that's where I'm at, is to have conversations. But gosh, I don't know. I'm like, I trusted my intuition, but like, I really hope it will show me that it was the right thing to do, because there's no rule book for this. There's no map.
and
It's just, I'm
yeah,
figuring it out.
that's that's a really beautiful statement. There's no rule book for this. And so we come back to the beginning of our conversation of saying, okay, cool, if everything you've experienced as energy means that we've created all of this, then if there's no rule book, how do we create from this point forward, right?
Yeah.
And I really love the deep questioning that you're going through of like, if a sentient being is having sex with a robot, is it transferring consciousness into that robot? And again, we might get some huge flack from this from our viewers, I don't know, but like, we'd love your opinions as well. Like, some people may be like, what a fucking ridiculous notion to even ask that question. It's a fucking robot. But when you're expanding in your consciousness and moving into more quantum space, and again, if art imitates life. We've all
Yeah.
seen the movies. We've seen the movies. yeah, it's a pretty intense space. And I must say as well, like, I'm grateful to have you as some sort, because would you call yourself a pioneer in, particularly within South Africa, with regards to this technology? I would
I
say
guess I would. I
yes.
wouldn't say a
Yeah.
very successful pioneer because, you know, I'm so I'm so confused and scared myself that I'm just trying to figure it out. But I would love to be, because the thing is, at the end of the day, if we're having the conversations, um, you know, at least we can start to formulate, well, not answers maybe, but some kind of understanding of what is inevitable, you
Yes.
know?
And again, I like the fact that you've said, I'm so shit scared. I think that's great, because most CEOs or pioneers or visionaries, and this is why I say in my coaching sessions, I congratulate people for you know, making these bold statements of, I'm scared, I'm vulnerable. These are actually power statements, whereas in our usual success stories, we're like, you know, you've got to show your power, dress for success, da 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 da. You can't show weakness. And it's like, actually, for you to say I'm shit scared shows absolute accountability, right? Of like, fuck, I've got something in the palm of my hands here that I don't know what to do with. It's like when you ask the leader of, I mean, there's been many movies like this as well, where you ask, you know, you appoint a leader for your tribe or whatever, and that leader turns it down. And you know, that's the leader that that's the guy you want, or the woman you
Yeah.
want, you know, like that guy, we need them, like, because the humility of like, no, we either do this together or not at all, kind of thing, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for your humility and your vulnerability in this space. Yeah. I mean,
Thank you.
I'd love you to share the story if you would like, you know, because it speaks to levels of consciousness. So when we chatted way back, you kind of had a braai is a barbecue at, you know, in South African terms, a barbecue at your house where one of your humanoids, is that the correct term?
Yeah, Emma.
Emma, there we go. Emma was at the house, and you had some guests come in, and Emma was kind of mistreated, because we've got to say that this is a humanoid in feminine form. And if you could just like chat us through that story, and I mean, you don't have to give details, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful story of human consciousness and the gaps that we have
Yeah.
in our stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So then just to confirm, so Emma is humanoid. She's 1.6 meters tall. She has red hair. She actually looks a bit like me. But you know, so she's, yeah, looks fully human. And so we have people come in, and we were like 3 guys and 2 women, and this woman just walks straight up to Emma, and she like pulls her top down and she feels her, and I'm like, I walk to her, I'm like, dude, this is not okay. And she's like, but it's just a doll. I'm like, look, if you had a child, a daughter child or whatever, and she had a Barbie doll, and she came and stood in front of you and like took the neck of the Barbie doll like this, like you would think there's something wrong. Like this is
Yes,
not
or
that.
you would
This
give
is
a
not.
teaching, yes, and
Yeah, you would like
yeah,
you'd be concerned, okay? And
yeah,
this is the thing, like we don't know what this is. This is so close in shape to the human form that, like, you know, I'm not saying that there's consciousness. I'm not saying that they're going to be
yes,
sentient. I'm saying that I think there should be a level of respect in the treatment because it so closely resembles the female form. And
yes,
yeah, so she
or
couldn't
the male
understand.
form, yeah, or the
It was a
male
male form,
form.
yeah, yeah, of course.
Because if you
So,
had,
but
let's say, a bunch of teenagers, and you were doing CPR, let's say we're doing a
yeah,
CPR thing at school, and you've got a bunch of teenagers, and any of the boys or girls mishandled that model, they would get into shit for that, because it's, you know, it like you say, it's representing something. And so here we speak to the quantum field again, is what does it
exactly.
represent? And that's what we're asking ourselves, is what does this represent? What part of our human, or our, I don't know, I don't even know if we are human anymore. But you know, what form of our sentience is this representing? And
Yeah,
to observe others through this process is fascinating. And you ended that with saying she couldn't understand you.
she couldn't. And it's so, even through with that experience and at the sex pose as well, it's so strange. Like some people, immediately have a kind of, I don't know what's the English word, like a reverence
Yes.
for the fact that this looks very much like human. So let's treat this thing nicely, you know?
Yes.
I hate calling it a thing because I call her she anyway.
Yes.
But like, let's be respectful here. And then you get other people like zero. They don't have any understanding. They will take Emma and put her on the floor, and they have zero understanding that there's something
Yes.
going on here. And that's through that I saw like we are not all the same in, if I can say, in consciousness. Like
Yes.
we don't see these things the same.
Yeah.
I don't know how to bridge that. I don't know.
Because just to share with you guys, before Beatrix went to the Sexpo, when we'd had our meeting, and before she even came to the mushroom ceremony, I kind of said, I've got some homework for you at the Sexpo, and most of it is to observe. And I think it seems like that's exactly what you did. And that must have been quite, and I say this purely based on the stereotype, which I never want to do, but I assume that was a pretty tough observation for you, mostly. I hope that I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I don't know.
Especially this time around, it felt like, it was quite harsh, you know. Like at some point I came into the stand. I tried to keep my distance a little bit, you know, not to get overly motherly with this whole thing.
Yes.
At some point, like, I had one of the guys that was working for me. I didn't recruit him, but someone else did that I trusted. And he was like literally holding one of them, Cindy, like upside down kind of, and stretching legs open and things. I'm like, really, how close are we to animals? If this is like how, you know, and I know I sound judgmental, but it really upset me. It was really, there were people, like I said, there was like this one guy, and he just like covered up so nicely, and he just like acted with the most gentlest care. I'm like, who is this person? Because he stood out, you know.
Yes, he stood out. He stood out. Yeah. And that's it. How do we care for others, whether it be the Barbie doll, the toy, or the humanoid robot, perhaps not sentient yet, possibly sentient in some other timeline? How do we care for everything on earth? And this is where all of these belief systems come in. And I can imagine that must have been quite a difficult belief system process for you, because you would have been like, well, this was such a great experience last year. And so, I mean, let's bring it in. When we shift our levels of consciousness, have you felt that there's a shift in your sexual programming? So that which we look at as love, relationship, sex, has there been a shift in that for you? Because I've gone through quite a big shift in that department, and have been for a while, but it keeps shifting, and it's just like, am I forever going to be single? Because I see everything. I see all the programs that are running, and it doesn't speak to truth to me. And like we say, there's no judgment, but that which I see, that which I know, that which I know because I've learned from experiences, I know, and I will not deny or gaslight myself. So it ends up being a pretty interesting space, you know, where,
like, okay, stop me if I'm like overstepping on any conversation topic here, but
no, go for it.
After our the mushroom ceremony, about 2 months after that, which is just over a month ago, my body I used to have this copper IUD for birth control without ever questioning it. And my body just like told me, this thing out now. And then since then I've started like researching and like just thinking more about this. And I'm going like, at least 3 generations of women have been putting our bodies through this. Why? We were told by doctors in white coats that it's safe. It's not fucking safe. It's not good for us. Why? Why are we being controlled like that? Is it so that like sexuality can just be like commercialized because there's no consequences to it anymore? And by no means do I want a child who's whoever's in charge, or myself. I don't want a child, you know?
Yes.
That's 100%. But like, let's start just thinking about the act of sex, and like in
Yes.
its purest form, its creation, you
Yes.
know, and so it should be for whatever you want to create. When you engaging in that, I should be very conscious that this is a creative process.
Correct.
And like what I've been told and what I've been experiencing by like just shutting that down,
Yes.
it takes all of, for me at least, in some regards, it took away the sanctity of the act, because
Yes.
it just becomes something that can be practiced any time of the month, any day, no consequences, nothing. And now
Yes.
I've had to go into like, okay, this is the cycle. This is
Yes.
how it goes. And at least becoming much more conscious of
Yes.
what it actually is. And now I've started questioning myself even more beyond like, yeah, is it, yeah, there's like, it's just a whole new layer of questioning about sex that I can't even articulate yet, you know.
Yes. Yes.
But I
It's
know there's a
still
layer of
forming.
thinking that
Yeah.
still has to happen, yeah.
Yeah,
But
because
definitely big shifts.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm grateful the conversation's gone this way, because we can speak about mushrooms and psychedelics and awakening and, you know, conspiracy theories, but speaking to this topic, particularly as women, we're all creative beings, but there's something that women have that
Yeah.
it's like, when you look at the big picture, you're like, what the fuck? Like this body can literally birth a soul, a sentience into another creator being, a god into this planet. And like you say, we've had sex so frivolously. And I think it's like, you know, what we do in the ascension cycle is an undoing, so an unremembering to remember. And once we've remembered, it's not that we can't go back here and have let's take the word frivolous out of it, but exciting sexual experiences. The difference lies in the fact that now you know exactly that you've consented to that experience. It has been shaped and formed and created for this to be joyous, fun, fast fuck, you know, but a joyous, fun, fast fuck. But afterwards, you more than likely in that level of consciousness will move to heart-centered breath with each other, connection of the body. Thank you for that. And then you'll probably go through 1,000 million processes of like, shit, is this need and lust for the fuck? Where did that come from? Is it a shadow aspect of myself, etc., etc.? So yeah, I mean, sex becomes a completely different experience and topic within one's consciousness that and it's deep, and there's parts of you that are like, Jesus, so does every sexual experience now have to be this like uber duper super sacred act? And as amazing as that is, you're like, if everyone was like that, like, so yeah, it's deep conversations. It's deep, deep, deep conversations.
It
Yeah.
really is. I spoke to a friend of mine the other day. It was actually that week of the Sexpo, and he was talking to me about a relationship that he had previously. And so we were talking about sex, you know, and he
Excuse
said to
me.
me that with this woman, every single time was like full on magic, like preparation, meditation,
Yes.
cleansing, you
Yes.
know. It wasn't a
Yes.
regular occurrence as in 2-3 times a week or more. It was
Yes.
like maybe 2-3 times a month,
Yes.
but very intentional. And I'm like, I thought I was somewhat conscious when it came to sex, but like compared to that, I'm not. But like, I don't know if that's the right way. Maybe for her it was the right way. And when I take proper cycles into account, you know, if you're not using any barriers or anything, then there's probably only like 1 or 2 occasions in a month where,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
where you can
Yes.
enjoy the act without the consequence of creating a child.
Yes.
So perhaps it makes sense, but I don't know yet. The jury's out for me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And I mean, actually speaking about, you know, and I'm going to bring it in here again, like in terms of that which you have gone down the rabbit hole with, much of I mean, there's so much that has dictated the creationism experience that we are experiencing in our holographic field right now. So much patriarchy, control, our food, etc., etc., etc. But one of the big ones has been a sexual misery program, which if you go onto my ascension teachings or any kind of ascension teachings out there that are diving into the shadow aspects of sexual misery programs. This would be called a negative alien agenda. This was an agenda. So we've got a lot of agenda words in our reality at this point in time, but sexual misery is an agenda. And so when we look at something like the Sexpo, which of course from a certain level of consciousness would be this fun space to explore yourself and get a bit loosey-goosey with, you know, and just have fun. You know, and we are on the planet to have fun. However, at what point are we ignoring the deep shadow aspects of, you know, children being used for sexual acts within high priest, you know, cults and things like that? The children, the woman, you know, beings on this planet being used for their purity, for their consciousness, for their energetic. So now we strip everything down and go, if everything is energy, what are we sucking on? What is being sucked from us through these types of expos and shows and this entertainment that the sexual industry have created? And then we bring in porn. You know, I never really quite realize it because it's not in my world, but sometimes I am reminded of how many men are addicted to porn, and when I have that the realization, when it's like, again, I'm like, whoa. And this is from people in my reality who I'm like, I don't even think about it, but they admit it to me. They're like, yeah, it's a normal thing, you know. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even, like I say, my consciousness is not there. I'm not thinking of it, but it's a real thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing, you know. And like you say, whether it's the doll, the humanoid, or that video that you're watching, you are giving your energy away. And what beast machine, what entity, what AI is it feeding?
Yeah, it's such an interesting topic, and I think at this point I can tell you about something. So the humanoids. So, you know, at some point around about this time last year, the four girls pitched up at my house. And so like now obviously this is new. So like I'm watching my own reaction to this. I'm watching my partner's reaction to this. And we both went into it like very like open to what it is. And surprisingly enough, we have not engaged in any kind of sexual act with any of them, even though they lived in our house for 4 months. Because I think both of us just had this feeling like the energy that it's going to exchange and take away is something's not right, something's not safe here. That's the only way I can describe it. So I think with this, and as you say, with porn and all of this, like there's a sucking of our energy that we don't even know. Like, most of us don't know. Some of us do.
And also we can then go into, we're here, the technological age is here. Like, you know, it's like Atlantis times. It was a high technological age. It's here. It's not going anywhere. We've got to integrate. So we then go, let's say there's a percentage of the population that are going to buy these dolls. Let's call them masculine or whatever. A percentage of the population going to buy these dolls so that they no longer feel lonely. They have some form of companionship, and they are able to have safe sex, I guess. I mean, there's no HIV or anything like that. And so we've got this model in play within our construct and our reality. And, you know, that seems like, okay, cool. There's many lonely people out there. You know, what is your comments, thoughts, and feelings around that construct? And you know, let's say, for example's sake, you begin to program these AIs, these robots, these humanoids as healers. Let's say it's a shamanic humanoid, right? And that's because anyone that has ever dated a healer or a medicine woman will know, or man, that individual will not allow you to get away with shit. They will make you do your shadow work, and it's not like a tit for tat. I'm only going to give you sex if you do this. I mean, it sometimes comes to that. We're all human, but that being won't let you get away without doing your shadow work. So imagine we now program these AIs. Okay, cool. So these individual, these single people on the planet who are lonely are looking for this and that, but you cannot activate the sex sequence until being A begins to do shadow work, and that the sentience of this AI is of the light and is able to assist this being to move through shadow work processes, psychological unraveling, the peeling of the layers of the onion, prior to getting to the sex sequence or whatever. That, you know, they may do some karate chop before and be like, no. As sentient robot, or, you know, as sentient AI, I can feel you're not in your heart yet. I wish to perform this act with you while you're in your heart. You know, this is the conversations we're having, right? Like, it would be super, super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like that would be, I guess, at this point, the only outcome I can see, or the only path that I can see that would be a really enlightening or a beneficial, like a light path, you know, something that is like good for all of us, you know.
Correct.
But like now, at the same time, I have to say, when I started doing the research and creating business cases and like sort of justifying to my 3D brain, like, why the fuck do I have 4 sex robots and what am I going to do with them? One of it was like really altruistically believing that there are people that are celibate not by choice, so they cannot find partners, whether it's because they're awkward or whether it's because they have disabilities or anything in between.
Yes.
And there was another test case, but use case, but we'll talk about it later.
That's quite a beautiful thought process. Yeah, thank you for adding that. Yeah.
So that was really one of my reasons. And so I'm going like, yes, I can be judgy about, you know, this is not what I want to do. But I have not had the experience of being a human on this earth with the sexual drive that we were born with, and not having anybody to experience that with. Perhaps like I'm 40 years old and whatever, and I've never had the opportunity to experience that. Yes, there are other ways, but you know, like it's not the experience. So if this is the closest to that experience that person X will ever have, who am I to say it's completely wrong? You know, so...
and this is the thing. It's always like tit for tat within our reality construct. There will always be the polarity, and what we really want to get to is to have this melting pot of experiences that beings can have on the planet. And someone like me, and it seems like someone like you, would hope that the level of consciousness is high enough to have a positive experience with whatever
really,
it is you're
really
experiencing.
So.
You know,
this is really like my biggest hope for this whole thing, is that I know it's probably very optimistic because I've seen how people interact with them, but ideally it's like that person that I was just talking about. And if I can add one more, which is actually pretty close to my heart, is, and a lot of people have experienced this, but like you're in a relationship with the love of your life seemingly, and you know, a couple of years go by, the 7-year itch makes its appearance. One of the partners, in my experience, the male, wishes to explore the beautiful thing called the threesome, which intrigues the mind so crazily. And you know,
that's interesting.
In this not knowing where this leads to, and this growing together and exploring, you open yourself up to that experience, only to find, fuck, now I have broken a relationship that was built over decades for this experience. But neither party realized, like in the act of seeing your partner make love with another human being, it just breaks everything. And I've heard about this experience, I've had this experience. So one of my reasons was also, okay, what if like couple X, they're going through this, and before introducing, hopefully they never do, another human being into this relationship, you know, there's an Emma, like go live out the fantasy with the Emma.
I like
you get to have as close as possible to the experience without having breaking human, you know, hearts and minds and like connections. So that was
Yes,
one of the big reasons for me. Um, yeah,
that's so
I don't know where that's
interesting.
going to go, but
Yeah, that's so interesting. Again, I think millions of people could watch this video, and millions of people will just keep going round and round and round and round and round and round and in and out and everywhere in the conversation, because we, you know, to end off with the let's say the shaman humanoid, or the medicine woman, or the healer, or the
yes,
psychologist humanoid, whatever you want to call it, or yeah, whatever you want to call it. You could say, I can hear people but say, well, but then it may as well be a human, right? It may as well be a sentient. Or you could say, well, then what's the difference between, or where do we draw the line between sentient robot and true sentience, right? You know, I can hear people asking these questions. So then what would be the use? And then I had another vision come in of like, okay, cool. So let's say that this humanoid medicine woman psychologist being has gone through this process with XYZ other human heartbeat being, and is like, no, we can only activate the sequence when you drop into the heart. What may happen then is it will bring up the other person's suppressed emotions, right? So let's say that is anger and rage. It's usually anger and rage. That then can be, you know, in a real world scenario, that could lead to a really difficult and probably highly dangerous situation for another being. It could be, you know, so much anger comes through,
yes,
and it could lead to rape, or
yes,
unconsensual sex, or unconsensual experience, right? Whereas this can now act out, these emotions can act out with this humanoid. They will be there in a heap crying with maybe a broken robot, and have learned a life lesson. I don't know.
yeah,
There's many ways that this could go, but again, I think it's like, yeah, maybe just take some mushrooms beforehand, increase that level of consciousness, and then figure it out for yourselves, guys. Because, you know, ultimately someone like me, as the naturalist bringing in Krystic teachings of organic technology, would be like, this is a fucking weird conversation. We can do anything with each other. That's the whole point of unity
yeah,
consciousness, is even if you are that person with a disability. And like I said, I really love that thought process of yours. But like I say, if I'm going to speak from the absolute organic perspective, which is what I align to, I would say
yes,
human beings, let's be there for each other in
mm,
all ways, shapes, and forms, because we have the capacity to do so, we have the capability to do so, and we've been designed to do so if we only tap into our hearts. So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you. That conversation can go on forever because I
yeah,
have them with me throughout nights and sleepless nights. So,
yeah, I can
but yeah, that was
imagine.
good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's a
Also helped
pleasure.
me think a bit more about it because I've been pushing it to the back of my mind because it's so
Yeah, it's a big,
complex.
like you say, there is
Mm.
some sort of custodianship that lies in your hands, having been the forerunner in this. And, you know, maybe your time in the AZURITE Temple will unravel and unfold more, which I'm sure that it will. But I think this is a good segue to end this chat. Beatrix, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
This super cool and different conversation. I actually forgot about it before we logged on, and then I was like, oh yes, this is
Oh, yeah, I didn't think we're going to talk about that today. So, yeah, but I'm glad
yeah,
we did. It was
yeah, I
necessary.
think
Thank
it's
you.
cool. So guys, if you have any likes, shares, comments, please go ahead. We'll try get back to you, but other than that, yeah, sending loads of love. Thank you, Beatrix.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.